He never cried the day his father was arrested. The police lights painted their small house in Ohio red and blue. Neighbors watched from behind curtains, but 17-year-old Daniel Carter stood still. The officers said his father had stolen millions from the construction company where he worked as an accountant. They said there was proof, signatures, transfers, emails. The news spread across their town faster than wildfire. By morning, everyone believed the story, but Daniel knew his father. He knew the man who fixed broken bicycles for free, who counted every dollar twice before spending it. Something felt wrong. At school, the whispers were louder than the bells. Students who once asked Daniel for homework help now avoided eye contact. Teachers spoke to him with forced sympathy. Some parents complained that a thief's son should not be around their children. Daniel walked through the hallways like a ghost. He heard the words but pretended not to. Inside, however, something darker was forming. He wanted answers, and more than anything, he wanted to clear his father's name. When he visited his father in county jail for the first time, his father picked up the phone with shaking hands and said only one sentence: "I did not do this." In that moment, the mission became clear. This was not just about family. The evidence seemed impossible to fight. Bank transfers traced back to his father's computer, digital signatures matching his login, surveillance footage showing him entering the office late at night. The court-appointed lawyer advised them to accept a plea deal, 5 years instead of 20. Everyone said it was the best option. Even his exhausted mother began to lose hope. But Daniel refused to believe that the truth was so simple. He started spending nights in the public library reading about financial crimes, cybersecurity, and forensic accounting. While other teenagers were at parties, he was studying balance sheets and data trails. While others slept, he replayed every detail of the case in his mind. Something did not fit. One evening, while scrolling through old company news articles, Victor Langford, the company's chief financial officer, he was praised as a visionary leader, a failed internal audit that was never explained. The article had been removed from the company website but survived in an online archive. Why would a powerful company hide an audit? The question refused to leave him alone. Suspense wrapped around his thoughts like a storm cloud ready to burst. Daniel began emailing former employees. Most ignored him. One anonymous reply simply said, "Follow the audit." That message changed everything. He managed to track down the retired auditor who had conducted the failed review. The man lived quietly in Chicago and at first refused to speak. But when Daniel showed him the court documents and the sentence his father was facing, the old auditor sighed and invited him inside. Over cold coffee at a wooden table, the truth slowly unfolded. The audit had uncovered irregular transfers linked to offshore accounts, but the board ordered it buried. The person who authorized the transfers was not Daniel's father. The auditor explained how digital credentials could be cloned, how a system administrator could access any employee's account and leave a trail that pointed to an innocent man. Daniel felt his heart race. If that was true, then the evidence was not proof, but proving it would require access to company servers and logs that were sealed by court order. A teenage boy with no connections stood against a corporation worth billions. People had already decided his father was guilty. Instead of giving up, Daniel made a decision that would shape his life. He applied to colleges with strong cybersecurity programs, explaining in his personal essay that he wanted to understand how digital systems could be manipulated. He was accepted to a state university in New York with a partial scholarship. Money was tight. Daniel worked nights delivering food while attending classes during the day. Exhaustion became normal. There were nights he stared at his dorm ceiling wondering if he was chasing a fantasy. But every time he considered quitting, he remembered the look in his father's eyes behind that glass. Years passed. Daniel graduated at the top of his class and secured an internship at a respected cyber forensic firm in Boston. He never told his supervisors the full reason behind his passion. He simply became the best. He learned about backup servers that automatically stored administrative access logs. That detail struck him like lightning. If the company had backups, there was a chance the real login source could be traced. With the help of a mentor who believed in second chances, Daniel reviewed publicly available court records and noticed that the prosecution had relied only on primary logs submitted by the company itself. No independent verification had been conducted. That was the crack in the wall. Daniel and his mentor filed a request under federal discovery rules to access archived backup data that had never been examined. The process was slow and frustrating. The company fought back with expensive lawyers. Media interest faded years ago. After months of legal pressure, Daniel spent sleepless nights decrypting and analyzing the logs. His hands trembled as he compared timestamps. On the nights when the fraudulent transfers were made, the login to his father's account originated from a remote administrative terminal assigned to Victor Langford. The system showed a privilege override that bypassed normal user authentication. It was hidden deep within technical records that no jury had ever seen. The real signature was not his father's. It was a shadow left by someone powerful enough to manipulate the system. The revelation felt unreal. Suspense turned into shock. Further analysis uncovered emails from the time of the buried audit discussing financial pressure and personal bonuses tied to project approvals. Victor had everything to gain and nothing to lose. When confronted with the new findings, federal investigators reopened the case. The story that once destroyed Daniel's family returned to headlines across America. This time, the narrative shifted. The respected executive was accused of orchestrating a sophisticated fraud and framing a subordinate to protect his reputation. The trial was tense. Daniel sat in the courtroom, now not as a helpless teenager, but as an expert witness. He explained in clear language how digital credentials were cloned, how administrative overrides worked, and how backup logs revealed the truth. The defense tried to discredit him as a biased son, but data does not care about emotions. It speaks in timestamps and codes. When the jury reviewed the full forensic report, the silence in the courtroom felt heavier than ever before. Suspense stretched across every breath. Weeks later, the verdict arrived. Victor Langford was found guilty of fraud, obstruction of justice, and falsifying evidence. The judge acknowledged the devastating impact of the wrongful conviction on an innocent family. Daniel, his father, was released after 7 years behind bars. When he stepped outside the prison gates, the sky seemed wider than before. Father and son embraced without words. This time Daniel did cry, not out of weakness, but out of release. Years of pressure dissolved into that single moment. But the story did not end with freedom. The emotional scars remained. Lost birthdays, missed graduations, a childhood overshadowed by suspicion. Daniel realized that justice, while powerful, cannot return stolen time. Yet it can restore dignity. He founded a non-profit organization dedicated to reviewing cases where digital evidence might have been manipulated. Across the United States, families reached out with similar stories. Technology can build futures, but in the wrong hands, it can destroy them. Daniel chose to stand in that space between code and conscience. If you're listening right now and you feel like the world has already written your story, remember this. Truth does not disappear just because it is buried. Sometimes it waits for someone brave enough to uncover it. Daniel was not a lawyer. He was not wealthy. He was just a son who refused to accept a lie. His journey was filled with doubt, isolation, and fear, but persistence turned suspicion into proof and pain into purpose. This is Mindforge, where stories are not just told, they are felt. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe to Mindforge and become part of a community that believes in resilience, courage, and the power of truth. Because sometimes the greatest battles are fought in silence, and sometimes the quietest voices change everything.